I want you to picture the most comfortable you have ever been in your life. Like socks off, lights low, leftover pizza on the coffee table, some random cooking competition playing on TV that you don't even care about, but it's just on, you know? That specific kind of comfortable where you fully surrendered to the couch and the couch has accepted you. That was me, last Wednesday night, 11:48 p.m. And then someone knocked on my door. Not texted, not called. Knocked, which in New York City at midnight is already suspicious. Normal people don't knock. Normal people buzz from downstairs and you pretend you can't hear them. But this was a knock. Confident. 3 times, like someone who was used to doors opening for them. I paused my show. I looked at the door. I looked at my pizza. I genuinely considered not answering. I answered. And standing in my hallway was my CEO, Miss Avery Cole, founder and CEO of Cole Ventures, 42nd floor office. Car service everywhere, the kind of woman who sends calendar invites for 5-minute conversations and still runs them like board meetings. In my hallway, in a blazer that was slightly wrinkled, which for Avery Cole was basically the equivalent of anyone else showing up in a bathrobe. And behind her, a woman I had never seen before in my life, holding a gas station bag of Doritos, wearing sunglasses at midnight, grinning like she had just pulled off the greatest heist in human history. And behind her, a golden retriever. Enormous, fluffy, tongue out, tail going absolutely insane. I stood there in my sweatpants holding a slice of pizza and I said the only thing my brain could produce in that moment. Is this a work thing? The woman with the Doritos burst out laughing. Avery Cole looked me dead in the eyes and said, completely seriously, we need to stay here tonight. Can we come in? And that is how my entire life changed on a random Wednesday in November. And hey, if you're enjoying this already, like and subscribe. It actually helps more than you think. Now back to the story. My name is Ryan Carter. I'm a senior project manager at Cole Ventures. I have worked for Avery Cole for 3 years. In those 3 years, she has learned my name, my department, and the fact that I take my coffee black, which she only knows because she once grabbed the wrong cup off the conference room table, took a sip, made a face and said, "Whose is this?" And I said, "Mine." And she said, "You drink it black," like I'd admitted to something criminal. That was the most personal interaction we'd had in 3 years. Until now. I let them in. The woman with the Doritos was Mia, Avery's best friend since college, which explained immediately why Avery put up with her. Mia walked into my apartment the way people walk into a hotel lobby, looking around, assessing, deciding if it met her standards. She found the remote within 10 seconds. She was on my couch within 20. The dog was Biscuit. Biscuit walked in and immediately pressed his entire face into my kneecap like we were old friends. I had never met this dog. This dog had apparently decided we had history. Avery stood in my living room looking like a woman who had rehearsed an apology and was now deciding whether to deliver it or just power through. She powered through. Here's what happened. Delivered in the flat, efficient tone she uses in quarterly reviews. Mia's apartment building had a pipe burst that morning. Emergency situation. Mia had called Avery. Avery, being Avery, said yes before asking any questions, because that's what you do for your best friend of 15 years. Mia moved herself and Biscuit into Avery's Upper East Side apartment that afternoon. Then, Avery's building had an issue with the heat. Full system failure. November in New York, the building sent everyone a notice that repairs would take until tomorrow morning. Hotels, and she had called 4 of them, either didn't allow pets or were fully booked because there was a massive finance conference in the city this week. Which, of course, because half the city's finance world knows Avery, she couldn't exactly show up at a conference hotel and ask for a favor without it becoming a thing. And you found my address how? I asked. She pulled out her phone, showed me a Slack message from 16 months ago where I had told a colleague my cross streets for a lunch meetup. She had my cross streets from a Slack message 16 months ago. I want to be very clear. This woman has called me by the wrong name twice in 3 years, but she had my cross streets. I didn't say any of this out loud. I just nodded and said, "Okay. Does anyone want water? Do you have anything stronger?" Mia asked. She had been in my apartment for 4 minutes. I liked her immediately. I gave them the tour, which took approximately 45 seconds because it's a one-bedroom apartment in Midtown Manhattan, not the Louvre. Living room, kitchen that is technically a counter with ambitions. Bathroom, bedroom. It's cozy, Mia said. It's small, I said. Cozy is small with better PR, she said, and opened the Doritos. Avery was quiet through the tour. I could feel her recalibrating. This was a woman used to controlling every room she walked into, and this room was not cooperating. It was too small to command. It just kind of absorbed her. Then we got to the bedroom and I explained the situation. One bed, I said. Queen. The couch in the living room pulls out, but I paused. Okay, so the pull-out mechanism is technically broken. It doesn't pull out. It's just a couch. So, Mia said slowly, mathematically like she was solving something, there's one bed and three people. Correct? And a dog. And a dog. Biscuit doesn't count, Mia said. He sleeps wherever. He once slept on a Roomba. Adaptable dog. She looked between me and Avery. So the way I see it, Mia, Avery said. I'm just doing the math. I know what math you're doing. Two people, one bed, very practical, very European. We are in Manhattan. Manhattan was founded by the Dutch. That doesn't. Avery turned to me with the expression of someone who had been having this exact kind of argument for 15 years and had made peace with never winning. I'll take the couch. You keep your room. You're not taking the couch, I said. It's your apartment. You're the guest. I showed up uninvited at midnight, still a guest. Ryan. She said my name the way she says it in meetings when she needs someone to stop talking and listen. Firm. Clear. I am not going to take your bed. And I'm not going to let a guest sleep on a broken pull-out couch. You were going to say my boss, she said. I was going to say my guest. You paused. I was choosing the right word. Mia was watching us like a tennis match, Doritos in hand, completely delighted. What if, she said in the careful tone of someone defusing a bomb, we just all figure it out naturally, like adults? Ryan, do you have extra blankets? Yes. Great. Then we have options. Nobody has to decide anything right now. Let's have a drink, decompress, and circle back to sleeping logistics like the functional adults we definitely all are. Avery and I looked at each other. I have wine, I said. Pour it, said Mia. We ended up on the living room floor. Not on the couch. Biscuit had claimed the couch entirely, spread across it like he'd been on the wait list for years, and finally got the apartment. So the three of us sat on my rug with a bottle of Cabernet and the cooking competition still playing on low volume in the background. And something happened that I didn't expect. It got normal. Not immediately. The first 20 minutes were still a little stiff, a little careful, the way any situation is when your boss is sitting cross-legged on your floor, drinking wine from a mug because you only own two actual wine glasses. But somewhere around the second glass, the stiffness just dissolved. Mia, it turned out, was a person who talked the way some people breathe, constantly and without apparent effort. She had a story about everything. The investor dinner disaster, apparently, she told the guy his tie was giving middle management energy, and she stood by it. The tie was objectively bad. The pipe burst, a previous incident involving Biscuit and a neighbor's cat that she described as diplomatic in nature, a story about Avery in college that Avery tried to shut down approximately 4 times before giving up. I learned more about Avery Cole in 40 minutes on my living room floor than I had in 3 years of working for her. She'd grown up in Chicago. She'd wanted to be an architect before she pivoted to business. She was terrified of birds. Not all birds, specifically pigeons, which in New York was a logistical nightmare she'd simply chosen to live with. She was funny. Quietly, precisely funny in a way that snuck up on you. She'd say one dry line while Mia was mid-story, and it would take a second to land and then hit harder than anything that was trying to be funny. I caught myself watching her when she wasn't looking, which was a thing I needed to stop doing. So I stopped. Mostly. Mia fell asleep on the rug. Just gone. Mid-conversation. 1 minute she was telling a story, next minute her head was on Biscuit's back and she was out. Biscuit didn't even flinch. This was clearly a routine, which left me and Avery sitting on my living room floor. At 1 a.m., wine finished. Cooking competition still softly playing. She does that, Avery said quietly so as not to wake her. Always has. She calls it efficient sleeping. She says why fight it when your body's done. She's not wrong, I said. She's rarely wrong. It's genuinely irritating. I smiled. She saw me smile and looked away. Not quickly, just looked at her mug. We should figure out the sleeping thing, she said. Yeah, neither of us moved. I really will take the couch, she said. I mean it, a blanket and a pillow and I'm fine. The couch is occupied, I said, nodding at Biscuit, who had now somehow expanded to fill the entire thing. And you're not sleeping on the floor? Ryan. Avery. First time I'd used her first name. Without the Ms., in 3 years I had never not said Miss Cole. It just came out. She looked at me. Sorry, I said. Miss Cole? Don't, she said quietly. Don't take it back. It's fine. A pause. It's fine. The room was very still. The bed is big enough, she said finally. If you're okay with it, I promise I'm a very boring sleeper. I don't move. I don't snore. I take up approximately 11 inches of mattress. You won't even know I'm there. Okay, I said, just like that. Okay. Here's the thing about sharing a bed with someone you've spent 3 years being professionally careful around. Every single thing becomes very loud. The way you arrange your pillows, which side you're on, whether you say goodnight or just turn the lamp off, the exact distance between you and another person, and how aware you are of every inch of it. I turned the lamp off. Good night, she said. Into the dark. Good night, I said. And then silence. The particular kind that has weight to it. 3 minutes passed. I know because I was staring at the ceiling counting the shadows. Can I ask you something? She said. Yeah, the Morrison account. Last spring, you restructured the entire delivery timeline overnight and saved the pitch. Nobody told me it was you. I found out 2 weeks later from the file metadata. I didn't say anything. Why didn't you say anything? She asked. You could have. That was worth saying something. It wasn't about credit, I said. The pitch needed to work. It worked. Silence. That kind of thing drives me crazy, she said. Me, fixing pitches? No. People doing exceptional work quietly and not advocating for themselves. A pause. You do it constantly, I've noticed. You've noticed? I notice more than I let on, she said. I know that's probably. I know it might not seem that way from where you sit. I thought about 3 years of quarterly reviews. Professional, thorough, impersonal. It didn't seem that way, I said honestly. No, I know. She was quiet for a moment. I'm not great at the personal part of managing people. I'm good at strategy and I'm good at the work, and I'm not great at making people feel seen while I'm focused on the work. Another pause, smaller. That's not an excuse. It's just true. I didn't know what to do with that, so I just said, I appreciate you saying it. I should have said it a year ago. She shifted slightly. The timeline restructure, that was genuinely brilliant, Ryan. I should have said that a year ago, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. The ceiling had nothing useful to say. Thank you, I said, and meant it. Quiet settled back in softer this time, like something had been set down. Avery? Yeah. The Morrison account wasn't even the best one. I had a full framework restructure idea for the client pipeline that I never brought up because I didn't know if it was my place. Silence. Tell me, she said. Not a command, a request. So I told her. 1 a.m., dark bedroom, New York doing its low hum outside the window. I laid out the whole thing, the framework, the logic, the gaps I'd seen for 2 years and never said out loud. She listened the way she listens in meetings, completely nothing wasted, no interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Thursday morning, she said. Bring it to me before the 9 o'clock. We'll go through it before the team sees it. Yeah? That idea is 2 years overdue. Don't make it 3. I smiled at the ceiling. Okay, I said. She didn't say anything else. I didn't either. At some point, and I genuinely couldn't tell you when, sleep came. And whatever careful distance we'd arranged between us on that mattress did what distances do when nobody's defending them. It quietly disappeared. I woke up at 7:14 a.m. to the sound of Mia aggressively whispering. I opened one eye. She was standing in my bedroom doorway in the same clothes from last night, Doritos somehow back in hand, staring at whatever she was seeing in the room with an expression of pure joy. I became very aware in that moment that at some point in the night Avery and I had drifted toward the center of the mattress. Not dramatically, just the 11 inches she'd claimed had become something more like 4. Her shoulder was close to mine. Her breathing was slow and even. I looked at Mia. Mia looked at me. She pointed at the ceiling and mouthed the words, "Oh my God." I pointed at the door and mouthed the words, "Get out." She gave me 2 thumbs up and disappeared. I got up carefully, made coffee, stood in my kitchen and had a quiet conversation with myself about the nature of professionalism and proximity and November nights, and what any of it meant. The conversation was inconclusive. Avery came out 20 minutes later, hair pulled back. Yesterday's blazer. She had the particular composure of someone who had decided before leaving the bedroom exactly how they were going to walk into a room. She walked into the kitchen, looked at the coffee, looked at me. Morning, she said. Morning, I said. Coffee? Please. I poured her a cup. Our hands were close when I passed it. Neither of us moved away. From the living room, Mia was pretending to be very interested in walking Biscuit and making absolutely no effort to hide that she was listening. Thursday morning, Avery said quietly, "The framework, don't forget." "I won't." She nodded, wrapped both hands around the mug the way she had that first night, or the first tea, which felt like a different lifetime now even though it was 8 hours ago. Ryan. She looked at me properly. I'm glad the heat went out. I looked at her, she looked back steadily. Avery Cole didn't say things she didn't mean. 3 years had taught me that much. Yeah, I said. Me too. From the living room. Biscuit, look a squirrel. There was no squirrel. We both knew there was no squirrel. Mia just needed somewhere to put her energy. Avery closed her eyes briefly in the pained way of someone who had loved their best friend for 15 years and had made total peace with it. She means well, she said. She's great, I said, and meant it. They left at 8:30. Mia hugged me for a genuinely long time, whispered, "Do not mess this up," directly into my ear, and then walked out like she hadn't said anything. Biscuit sat on both my feet before being coaxed into the hallway. He looked back at me once at the elevator like he was saying something. Avery was last. She stopped in the doorway, looked at me standing there in my apartment that was now back to being just mine, except it felt different. Fuller somehow, like it had held something that left a shape. Thursday morning, she said. 7:30? I asked. 7:30, she confirmed. She started to turn, then stopped. There's a place, she said to the hallway, not quite to me. Coffee shop on 54th. Small, always a line, but it moves fast, and they have this specific almond croissant that I think about more than I'm comfortable admitting. She turned back just slightly. I go on Thursdays before work sometimes. If you wanted, before the 7:30. That's all. She left. I closed the door, stood there, looked at my living room, the 3 mugs still on the coffee table, the Doritos bag Mia had left on my couch, the slight indent on the cushion where Biscuit had claimed it as his own. My phone buzzed. Mia. Okay, I need you to know she texted me from the elevator to ask if you seemed like the kind of person who liked almond croissants. I said yes. You're welcome. Also, Biscuit misses you already. He keeps looking at the elevator door. I stared at my phone. Then, unknown number, 54th between 6th and 7th. They open at 6:45. I usually get there at 7. The line looks worse than it is. I read it twice. I looked at the ceiling, my unremarkable, ordinary apartment ceiling that had somehow witnessed the most quietly extraordinary night of the last several years of my life. And I typed back, I'll be there at 7. Sent. I put my phone down, picked up my coffee, stood by the window and watched the city do what New York does. Just keeps going, loud and indifferent and relentless, completely unaware that something small and real had just happened in a one-bedroom apartment in Midtown. One knock. One chaotic night. One bed, one dog who ate my sock, the left one specifically, and I still don't know why, and somehow, Thursday morning felt like the most important thing on my calendar. Alright, that's the story. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And I'm genuinely curious, where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments. And also, be honest, are you more of a Ryan or a Mia? Because there is no wrong answer.